Do you want to know what I hate in life? Divorce. Do you want to know why I hate more than divorce? Nintendo. And after Kaga's divorce from Nintendo, the man moved on to new ventures in the form of Tear Ring Saga for the PlayStation 1. However, unfortunately for Kaga, subtlety wasn't really his thing, so he got sued by Nintendo. Twice. Yeah, his game studio pretty much had zero chances of survival after being carpet bombed by everyone's favourite multi-billion-dollar game corporation. But even with any theoretical chances of success from his newly born game franchise being prematurely neutered, the man known as Shozo Kaga still managed to make one of the most well-balanced and intricately designed strategy JRPGs that I've ever gotten the chance to play in my life. And the name of this game was Berwick Saga, Lazberia Chronicle Chapter 174. The reason I whine about the many lawsuits surrounding the Tear Ring Saga series of games is because of two reasons. Reason number one, Kaga was never actually credited for work on this game, most likely due to his company trying to dodge lawsuits from the supreme overlords at Nintendo, meaning that the poor guy doesn't even have his name attached to arguably his best work. And reason number two, it's a well-established theory that the mechanics in this game were specifically designed in a way to not get Hiroshimed by Nintendo for a third time. And so, instead of square tiles, we have these beautiful hexagons that'll take a couple of hours adjusting to, and garner the player and enemy phases that are well associated with classic Fire Emblem gameplay. Instead, the player and the enemy AI have to take turns, moving one unit per turn rather than moving every single unit at once. This new way of organising unit control fixes the pacing issue that Fire Emblem games tend to have, thus giving the game a flow that both keeps you engaged and doesn't force you to sit through 30-minute long enemy phases. On top of this, there's a newly added save system, as every 5 turns you get the ability to save during a map. And yes, I do think that resetting and save scumming does kill your enjoyment of a game, but here, the maps were designed with you having the safety net available, so it's not the same as popping out save states every half a turn. The save system only works to this game's advantage, as it lets you play at your own pace and prevents you from crashing out when the game's RNG doesn't go your way. Because my god, the RNG in this game is insane. And trust me, you'll need this game's save system, because this game is hard. Now, I won't pretend to be necessarily good at Fire Emblem, but I'm not exactly inept at it either. I've been in games like Thracia, and I do generally enjoy doing Iron Man runs from time to time, so it's not like I'm a complete casual or something. But to put things into perspective, the amount of playtime I had registered in-game whilst playing Berwick Saga came out to be around 70 hours, but the amount of time I had registered playing the game on the emulator I was using came out to about over 100 hours. I spent more than 1/4 of my total playtime in this game on just resetting. I wouldn't say this game is hard in the way that's poorly designed, like other Fire Emblem games with high difficulty modes, but this game is hard in the way that Kaga himself said that in order to beat this game, you need to have the tactical ability of Caesar or Napoleon, whoever those guys are. That's right, Kaga was telling all the casuals to suck it up all the way back in 2005. This game was essentially an answer to how easy it was to cheese maps in Tear Ring Saga, and that's why you'll find traditional Fire Emblem strategies like juggernauting being ineffective. Kaga essentially studied ways in which people had trivialized his older works, and then decided to make his last piece of work before retirement the most well-balanced out of his career. That's not to say that every unit in this game is made equal, far from it, but rather, Kaga essentially found out the meta people were using to beat his older games, and built Berwick Saga around countering it. Berwick Saga isn't simply just another Fire Emblem game that Kaga made, but it's more so an evolution of the formula that Kaga made to further the depth of potential strategic gameplay. And since we're on the topic of balance, let's talk about units. Because contrary to what your average Kaga enjoyer will tell you, Kaga actually went down the skill emblem route himself later down his career. Around 90% of the characters in this game have something unique going on with them, which allows for them to act out certain niches within your army. And it's not just skills that differentiate a unit, but there's also a good amount of personal weapons too, such as with Aegina, who has access to Palus Riana, a wind tome that hits a minimum of 4 times per combat round, and recovers 8 uses per map, or chapter technically speaking. And there's also Grom, the personal weapon of the main lord of this game, Reese, which not only grants an additional attack, but also has a miracle charm effect built in, which can help save you some grief if the game's RNG takes a turn for the worst. Again, which it will. There are various characters who have their own roles and utilities which are hard, if not impossible, to be replaced by other units. And it's thanks to this fact that the game can make challenges and obstacles that require you to use smart unit placement, as well as the tools given to you in order to pass them, rather than just the typical stat inflation you'll see in other Fire Emblem games that try and up their ante. And we couldn't ramble about a Kaga game without mentioning its map design. The maps in this game are some of the most well designed I've come across. They're dense, full with side objectives, and most of the important ones have a strict turn limit which enforces faster play, because as we all know, turtling is for the weak. As for the story, its closest relative in terms of style has to be Thracia, with how it has a relatively small scale. But unlike Thracia, it has next to no connection to the previous Tear Ring Saga game, outside of one specific reference in a certain side quest, so you don't even have to play Tear Ring Saga to jump into this one. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. It's a lot more small scaled, which makes it a breath of fresh air, and from what I've played of the series, it's probably my favourite Fire Emblem / Kaga story so far, and thus, it has my utmost seal of approval. Overall, this game has the tightness of a noose and the sterility of a Type 1 isolator. Its main flaw isn't its own fault. It takes a solid half a dozen hours or so to get used to. What I'll say is that you should 100% not be worried if you find the game really confusing at first. There's really no other game like Berwick Saga, so it'll take a minute to get used to. But I promise you, the game is worth it. And don't worry about the difficulty too much. Yes, I struggled, but with some time, I managed to beat the game. And trust me, anything that I can do, you guys watching can probably also do. After all, I'm a man whose own mother said that if I were her first child, I would have also been her last. This is the same woman who currently has 7 children, by the way. But anyway, back to business. If I had to pinpoint a magnum opus of Kaga's career, it wouldn't be Genealogy of the Holy War, it wouldn't be Thracia, and it definitely wouldn't be Gaiden. Kaga's true magnum opus would be Berwick Saga. And if this video of me very briefly going over the game and why its peak doesn't convince you, then, well, you're missing out. But with all that said and done, I hope you enjoy the game as much as I did when I first played it, assuming that you'll try it out after my insane ramblings, of course. And I'll see you later.